Here we go. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Two Tongues Podcast. Podcast where Kyle and I are very tired. It's early in the morning on a Sunday.
This video is it's betraying us, We could get away with, our voices might sound a little tired on the audio, but I think it's gonna be pretty obvious that I got caught off on my back foot this morning.
Sure did. And I texted you yesterday.
Texted me?
I texted you. I said, "Hey man, are you feeling up? How are you feeling? Are you gonna come over?" I did.
Dude, something's up with my phone. All right, you're not the only person who has texted me, and I've had issues receiving it.
Okay.
Something's going on with my phone.
Yeah.
I thought it was their phone, but apparently it's my phone.
Listen, man, I text you sometimes. I don't text you a lot actually for being my best bud. But sometimes I text you and you don't respond to me.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like this guy, I'm like way down on the priority list. This guy's like,
No, mostly I just forget. Mostly it's like I see the text and I can't respond because I'm working or something. And then I just completely forget.
Likely story, Kyle.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the disheveled look. I don't know if it comes through on the camera, but you got wild eyebrow hairs sticking up on one eyebrow in particular. It's pretty awesome.
Go fix these for you guys.
Oh, there you go.
So you know.
Look, they just went right down, man. Awesome. So I used to go to school when I moved to the suburbs. I used to ride the bus with this kid named Jerry. And I remember him because
it's a funny name for a kid for some reason.
It is. It is. I remember because that's my father's name.
Yeah.
But also because this dude had eyebrows. It's just like a standard shape eyebrow, but right on this peak before it cuts down on his face. They got long and curled up. Yeah. Have you seen that before?
I have seen that. It's like a wizard eyebrow.
This guy had wizard eyebrows,
yeah,
and he was like a handsome kid, and he was athletic, and he was popular, but he had these fucking weird eyebrows. And
pretty cool.
You say that.
It's one step closer to being a wizard than I am.
That's true.
I don't have wizard eyebrows.
That's very true.
You know who else didn't have wizard eyebrows? Dumbledore.
Oh yeah. He should have. He should have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I still feel very, like I said, caught off guard. I got a text message from you this morning asking if I was going to be here. Normally we would have been like starting the podcast right around then.
Yep.
I was asleep. I was asleep still.
But it kind of worked out well though, because I came down this morning and I was like, "Hey man, I got to be camera ready. We're on YouTube now. I got to get in the shower." And my wife was like, "I have to get in the shower." And I don't know. I mean, that's sort of an impossible situation because you don't win that fight.
Yeah.
And then you said, "Hey, I'm going to be late." I'm like, and I have time to get in the shower. And it solved all my dirty problems.
We had like the complete opposite problem. I didn't have time to get ready at all. I was like, "Oh God, I have to leave." Plus it's snowing out. Which fucking sucks, man.
I heard it hailing.
Yeah.
And then when my kids got up, I was still trying to lay in bed, and I heard them get really excited. They saw the snow, and they were freaking out. Remember the first snow of the year? When you're a child, it's like magic,
I feel like this was a surprise one, and it was pretty decent. At least over it seems like you guys didn't get as much over here.
You got more further away from the lake?
Stuck on the ground more, it seems like.
But it's just like that, it looks like Dippin' Dots. Yeah. That's exactly what my daughter said when she opened up the door, and she was like, "It's snowing Dippin' Dots." She goes outside with her mom. They get bundled up. They go outside. They gather some of it. They come in and they make homemade snow cones out of it.
Nice.
They did that at 8:00 in the morning.
Never too early for a homemade snow cone.
Nope. That's a good point.
That's what I would say.
There's all kinds of stuff newsworthy to talk about, Kyle. Israel Adesanya lost last night. The UFC.
I barely know who that is.
So I'm certainly not the expert, but Israel has been undefeated in the UFC. He's been kicking everybody's ass. They've been talking about they compare him to John Jones early on.
Okay.
And he's supposed to, I don't know if he's supposed to fight. I can't remember. They've been talking about a couple of really high profile fights for him. What happens, I think, I could be fucking this story all up. So if anybody knows, they're going to be like, "This guy's a schmuck."
Whatever. Fake news. We'd like to distribute it around here.
So I remember Joe Rogan talking about a guy that was coming over into the UFC with no MMA experience, but he was a kickboxer previously.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel came up fighting with that guy kickboxing. and he beat Israel. So when I think more than once, and he's the only dude to do it. So when Israel comes to the UFC, he's completely dominant. Nobody can touch him. He's beaten like everybody masterfully. He looks like Anderson Silva out there. He looks like Anderson Silva and John Jones had a baby, gave him an awesome name, Israel Adesanya, and sent that guy out to destroy worlds. And then this guy comes from kickboxing into the UFC, gets a fight almost immediately to fight Israel. And that's kind of unheard of because he didn't earn it, right? He didn't have any MMA credentials, but he's beat him already. And so it was hyped. And right before the fight, Israel was talking about how of all the fights, this is the one he had to win. You could tell he was putting all that pressure on himself because he's been beaten by this dude before, and he got knocked out.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And he hasn't been touchable. And this guy comes in and just has his number.
It's crazy. That guy is a player just instantly. After his first fight, he's in, like title contention, basically.
And that's one of the cool things about the UFC, about mixed martial arts in general, is you can have a situation play out like this, where the best fighter that we've ever seen gets handled by this dude who doesn't have any MMA experience. And then somebody like George St. Pierre comes in. I mean, obviously he's long gone now, but somebody like George St. Pierre comes in, who's a technical wrestler and BJJ nightmare, who shows up and just wraps up this Pereira, I think his name is, wrap up this dude and choke him to death. Now, somebody like Israel could handle, let's say, a George St. Pierre, but then George St. Pierre shows up and beats the guy easily. This is all hypothetical, obviously, who destroyed Israel. That's the kind of dynamic you have in mixed martial arts that's so interesting. It's like some dudes they'll have the right toolkit to beat somebody who's unbeatable, but then they fight somebody else and get destroyed. And you're like, what in the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
It's
true.
It is true.
It's an exciting sport.
It is exciting.
I just wish it wasn't in Las Vegas and so late.
Yeah.
It's like really where I'm looking for conclusion there.
It's there's got to be some liberal buzzwords we can use. It's marginalizing.
It is.
It marginalizes the East Coast and the Midwest.
It's I don't know. I can't think of any others. I was going to say it's appropriation, but that doesn't make any sense. How are they appropriated? Well, we could figure something out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know, man. I don't often order the pay-per-views for exactly that reason. It's too fucking late.
You got to be up till 2 a.m.
I don't want to watch the main event at midnight or 1 a.m. You know?
I'll just find the clips to the next day.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks.
I wonder if they did it earlier, if they would have better sales.
That's a good question. Probably not.
Started at 7, it's over at like 11. That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I can still stay up till 11, man.
It's like 4 o'clock out there. They're getting it started early for themselves out.
Just come fight over here, man.
Yeah, that's a great point. Fuck Las Vegas. Fight capital of the world, my ass. We could make Columbus, Ohio. I don't know why I picked Columbus.
Yeah.
But
let's make it the fight capital of the
Midwest.
The Midwest, yeah. The heart of it all, Kyle.
Yeah, the heart of the brawl.
Ooh, you're a marketing genius, man. You just came up with that shit right off the top of your head, man.
I'm gonna be the next Dana White.
Fuck.
I have to shave my head.
Yeah, and your eyebrows.
Do I have to shave my eyebrows?
Well, the hair's sticking back out.
Is it really?
Yeah, it came right back out on the one side. It doesn't matter.
I don't think it is.
So I'll tell you a story. I went hunting on Friday. I took a day off work and went hunting on Friday with one of my wife's friends, boyfriends. He's my friend too, I guess I can say one of my friends. But he's just a quiet dude. And so we didn't have a chance over the years to do a whole lot of like getting to know each other because he doesn't talk, but he's a super nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he invited me out and I was like, yeah. So we got to talk in the car on the drive. We went down to Mansfield. It's an over an hour drive. So it was good. But first time I'd been hunting in a couple years, and I haven't been hunting much as an adult. I did a little bit, of course, when I was younger with my dad, but I never killed an animal in there. I've seen them. I took a shot at a turkey once upon a time, but I enjoyed being out in the woods. I enjoyed like the whole rite of passage thing with my dad, carrying a loaded, dangerous weapon and being part of the adult group with the guys. And like, it was really important psychologically to have that experience. And I still remember it very fondly, even though a lot of the experiences hunting are hard and you wouldn't wish for them. But after the fact, the hardship makes it all the more, the memories all the better, you know? It's a very strange, paradoxical thing. You're like freezing your balls off. You're eating. There's a story my dad tells, I don't remember this, but about bringing hot dogs to eat. And they were eating like turkey. If they killed turkey, they were eating turkey. And then at one point, nobody was killing anything and they ran out of food and they pulled the hot dogs out of the garbage and ate them. You know, like the 2 days after they were thrown away or something crazy.
Yeah.
There's like, and you got to shit in the woods, and it's just like, it's fucking so hot during the day and so cold at night. It's like you're in the desert, man. When I was in the mountains, it's so effing cold, and you're like peeling off your clothes, getting in your sleeping bag. You know, you're exhausted, and then a couple hours goes by, and you are freezing. Then, somebody taps on the tent and tells you this, the sun's going to be up in an hour or two. You got to get out of bed. And the last thing you want to do is unzip that sleeping bag. It's murder.
Yep.
You're like, fuck this. Anyway, I tell you all that because there's all this discomfort that goes along with it. But then when I think about it afterward, after the fact, years later, I'm like, that was awesome. That was an awesome time. So anyway, I wanted to keep doing it. And I went back on Friday. I went back to the woods with a friend. I used a climbing tree stand for the first time. And I'll tell you that story because I was kind of afraid. So climbing tree stand is in 2 pieces, and it's like the simplest design you can imagine. You strap this strap around the back of the tree. The part that faces the tree in front of you is kind of like got teeth on it, so that when you pull down on it, it grips a hold of the tree. And that is your security. Your security is that the teeth are going to hold. And when you're sitting on it, it puts that weight against the tree, so you're pretty much safe.
Yeah.
I had no harness. I never used a climbing tree stand before. I watched a fucking video on YouTube the night before I left. Go out into the woods in 5:30 in the morning. It's pitch dark. Luckily, I have a little light on my hat, right? So I turn the light on and I get the climbing tree stand up, and I just very, very slowly climb that way up. It's just like you lift up the back part, and then you have your feet strapped into the bottom, and then you lift up the feet part. And the trick is you always want either the top or the bottom locked in. Otherwise, you're going to fall to your death.
Oh.
So anyway, I get up about 15 feet in this tree, and there's a small tree that's growing beside me, and all these little fucking little branches, but they're all in my face. They're in the way where my bow's going to be. So I have to go even higher, and I'm facing the tree on the way up. So I can't even really see how far down or how high up I am. So I climb up past those branches. At this point, I'm like 20 feet up this tree. And I turn around really carefully, I sit down in this tree stand. I get my feet untangled from where they're locked in. I turn my lamp off, just click a button on my forehead to turn my lamp off. And as soon as I did, it was pitch black, dude. I could not see my hand in front of my face. I definitely couldn't see how far down I was. As far as I'm concerned, it's the middle of the night. I am like hanging 20 feet up in this tree with a small fear of heights. Can't see shit. And I just panicked for a few minutes until I calmed down. I couldn't see anything for an hour. That's how long it took for me to be able to see anything. I couldn't have seen a deer, let alone shot a deer. Anyway, the rut had just started, and the deer were everywhere. And a lot of times you go hunting, you don't see shit. Deer are very careful. Wild animals are very careful, and they can hear you and see you and smell you from way further away than you can them. If they don't want to be seen, they won't be seen. But during the rut, they're all trying to fuck, and the bucks are chasing the does around. And I saw more than 10 deer.
Damn.
The deer that I shot on Friday, which was the first deer I ever took down. It was a very interesting experience. That was the 3rd deer I shot at that day. It was like compared to a normal hunt, it was like a video game. I was seeing deer constantly. It's not like I was waiting for them. A lot of times they were too far away for me to shoot them, or they were fawns that were too small and I wasn't going to shoot them. But 2 bucks came within range of me, and I shot and missed them both. Then I got down out of the tree stand because it was pouring down rain the entire morning. It was pouring down rain. And we got down from the tree stand and took a little walk. But because it was raining and with the leaves on the trees and the leaves on the ground, it was so noisy. You couldn't hear shit. You could thump around walking in the woods and you're not going to scare away anything. It was very unusual. Usually you got to be real careful. We walked right up on a doe. We walked right up on a doe. We're 40 yards from her, and she just sat there and waited. And Jeff tried to take a shot at the deer, but it was raining all day, and water got into his sight, and it was all cloudy. He couldn't see anything, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing. He kept pulling his bow up and putting it down, and he gave me this hand gesture like, don't move. And I couldn't see because they blend in so well, and you never hear them. The deer just appear out of a tree. It's how they're like little fairy creatures. They're so, dude, it's so strange. Anyway, he just couldn't get a shot at it. So eventually I tried to figure out what was going on. So I just really slowly walked over to him, and I'm like, what's going on? Then I see the deer, and he was like, I can't see out of the sight. So he and I just switched spots. Nice. 40 yards, broadside, perfect shot, double lung. The deer didn't go very far, like 50 yards, and we found her. Very, very clean kill. And I guess I'm a little bit bragging about this because it's my first deer and I'm excited about it. And we had steaks last night. I fed my whole family, Jess's aunt and uncle, 2 friends we had over. I fed everybody with the kill. Something about that feels really gratifying, and but the thing that I thought was strange about it was very fun. It was very exciting. The only other time I ever shot at a deer, I had adrenaline rush, like a cert. And this is very common. If you talk to hunters, they call it buck fever. They'll talk about how your adrenaline starts going. If you get like rubber legged, it's like a very strange feeling. It takes a while to recover. Actually, when your adrenaline's pumping like that, it might take you 20 minutes to be like able to walk normally again. So anyway, that didn't happen this time. And I thought that was kind of strange. I didn't have the adrenaline rush. And when I came up to the doe, I got down and I did the spiritual Native American thing. I got down, I put my hand on the buck. I looked at the doe. I looked at her. I said a little prayer. I was grateful, but I didn't have that. I didn't have the adrenaline, and I didn't have the guilt. And I thought I would, because I took a life. But
do you think the lack of adrenaline is just because you knew that it happened, so you were just like subconsciously prepared for it, so you just dealt with it better?
Maybe, but it's so involuntary that I was surprised, because when it happened the first time, I was surprised, but I didn't have any control over it, and I still didn't. It's not like I was trying to keep my shit together. I just didn't have it this time, and I don't know if that means I'm a tough guy or something. Like I'm used to it. But I don't think so, man. I think I don't know, man. It's strange. I don't know what it means. That's why I'm bringing it up. It feels like I should have felt different,
Why do you think that? Like, what do you think you should have felt?
I just think that when you lift the bow up and you see that deer through the scope, in this deep way that you're going to take a life. And it's a very strange feeling, man. And your body reacts to that. And that didn't happen. So the first time it happened, and this time it didn't. And I just don't know what that means, man. My body didn't react. And I expected to feel a deeper sense of guilt, or a deeper sense of, maybe even a deeper sense of satisfaction. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like when, I don't know, man, if you remember, like, when you lost your virginity or something, especially from a woman's perspective, this seems like a more common thing. It's like it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. You build it up or something, and there might be something like that going on. I don't know.
I'm sticking by my interpretation of it. The first time you did it, you had no idea. You had no idea what to expect. So you got that, and this time you had experienced that, so you just I think you just subconsciously dealt with it better.
It could be.
That's my theory.
It could be.
I'm sticking to it.
A couple other things about this. This is just like an unusual topic for the podcast, but so I had to field dress the deer, obviously in the woods, to drag it out. So you're basically gutting it, and I never did that before on my own. I've seen it done, but I never did it before on my own. So it took forever, man.
That's like the part of hunting that makes me the most nervous.
Yeah.
Because if you fuck up, I mean, you can ruin the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's very, very disappointing, especially when have taken a life. But I'll tell you one thing I was struck by was how colorful the organs are. I don't know what I was expecting. I've seen it before, but I don't know what I was expecting. It's like a lot of the organs, the material on the outside, whatever that is very pale. A lot of it's very pale and white, like the stomach and the intestines and stuff like that. And then they're just like covered in deep blue veins. So it's like you can imagine you just got this white gray fleshy material, and it's just covered, and you can just see the blue like branching patterns all over it. And then the liver was like a lavender color. And then some of the organs were like the deepest, darkest red you've ever seen, like crimson purple almost, And so there's like a level of beauty to that I wasn't expecting. And
you're a psychopath.
Especially
some like Jeffrey Dahmer.
But that's the thing. Like in the context,
these guts and entrails, so beautiful. You just festoon the forest with them.
That's the thing, man. It's like in the context of death and gore.
Yeah.
To notice that, fucking weird, man. Weird.
Yeah.
There's also no hesitation and no disgust reflex. Like you might think if you're cutting open an animal's body cavity and you're seeing things that you never saw before, and you're having to put your hands in there, you're feeling the warmth and all that. It's like you'd expect that you might have some kind of revulsion you know what I mean? Like some of that might be gross. It wasn't,
It's like normal. You're like Dexter, dude.
No, it was like some part of my deep instinct was like, do it. It's like I became a machine. I became a killing machine and a butchering machine. It was like instinctual. I knew how to do it. Something like that.
I knew how to do it.
It's like we talked about instincts before, man. Like the baby chicks hatch. They send that wooden platform on a rope. They pull they pull this platform above the chicken coop, and it has like the shape of a hawk, right? So the shadow of a hawk goes down on the ground, and the little chickens they were just hatched, that never saw a hawk before, they see that shadow and they instinctually run and hide.
I thought you were saying that the baby chicks were pulling a board. I was like, what?
Oh,
that makes more sense.
It was something like that was happening.
Yeah. You were the caveman DNA was coming out. You were you grunting?
So. No,
was there any grunting going on?
I don't think so.
Didn't get that primal.
But I'll tell you,
should have been listening to like High Lung out there.
That would have been sweet.
Bring your Bluetooth speaker. That might drive away other deer. That's probably not a good idea.
So I did have my Bluetooth headphones on me, and I did use them at one point.
Yeah. You're not going to hear anything anyways.
Well, that's the thing. It was raining so hard I couldn't hear anything. So for a little while, I popped one of my headphones in while I was up in the tree. I was listening to an audiobook, which I want to talk about a little bit too.
Cool. So I think I killed an animal yesterday.
Oh shit.
Yeah, a squirrel.
Oh yeah.
I was driving and it ran out in front of me.
Oh.
I've never done it before. I never killed a squirrel, and I think I did. I couldn't really tell. I didn't see its body, but I also didn't see it run out.
Oh, did you feel it or hear?
I didn't feel anything.
Oh man. It went under the car and never came back.
I never saw it. Yeah.
Maybe it went to a different dimension. It's a squirrel.
The bottom of my car is like the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I just like, as it was happening and immediately after, I couldn't help but think, why can't animals like figure out how to cross the road without dying? Like, I don't know. That seems like a stupid thing to say, but I don't know. It just seems
stupid animals.
Yeah, I feel like we have low expectations for animals. We should expect them to know how to stop and look both ways. I mean, it's not that complicated.
I don't know, man. The squirrels are pretty much. You ever see kids like on the playground They're playing double dutch, and they're like waiting for the ropes to come in. They're like, squirrels are like that on the street, man. They're like, okay, they're trying to time it, But you're right about that. They always time it in the worst possible way. It's like, I'm going to wait till this car's 10 feet from me, then I'm going to go, then I'm going to run underneath it and get back out the other side before, it's like,
they have little tiny brains, like a squirrel's brain is like that big, probably.
I think they're just thrill-seeking animals, man.
Yeah, it's like humans who do BMX and stuff like that.
I was gonna say that
motocross.
Squirrels are like the jackass crew of the animal kingdom.
Yeah. They're pushing each other in shopping carts.
That's what I think.
Just running out in front of cars.
Yeah.
Man. That's a cool theory, dude. The squirrels are the jackass crew of the
I think so.
All right.
I think so.
But yeah, I just think it's funny that we both may have killed animals. Well, you definitely did. I think I did. Would you eat squirrel?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Yeah, me too.
I've never had it before, but that's not true. I have, but I don't remember. I was too young.
I would. That's all.
Yeah, I think
I don't think I'd eat roadkill squirrel.
No. I think you tenderize it and you like pressure cook it or deep fry it. I think that's how you do it. Otherwise, it's like, or you make a stew.
Well, how do you fuck that up?
Yeah, and that kind of hunting is actually probably pretty fun because you only have to hunt with like a
22.
Like a 22. Yeah. And rifle hunting is almost cheating. It's it's like you're gonna kill that animal if
you're gonna blow it to bits if it's a big enough caliber. You could probably get away with a BB gun. You might 100%. If you're close enough.
So I was had some friends over yesterday. I told you we ate venison steaks last night. A couple different cuts of steak, and they were amazing.
Nice.
They were amazing, amazing, freshest meat I've ever had. And one of the dude, my buddy Kevin was over here. He's from Texas, and he said in Texas they chicken fry their venison. It's very, very common. So they'll have like big parties and they'll cut the steaks up into small strips and then they'll bread them with flour and salt and pepper, and then they'll deep fry them. They do everything. They deep fry everything in the South. So I don't know why you would want to deep fry venison because it's such an amazing tasting meat, but he did. So last night we did that with a couple pieces of it.
Oh yeah,
and it was delightful. But you taste a fried piece of meat, you don't taste the venison.
Yeah,
if you eat it that way.
That sounds interesting. You said it was good.
It was good. Yeah. I would do that with any cut of beef. I think it would be terrific. Like a schnitzel. It was like a schnitzel, but doing it with venison seems like a sin to me.
They breaded it?
Yeah. It was like
I missed that. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like a chicken fried steak, but it was venison.
But it's not, it's like a steak. It's not like a tenderized piece of,
well, it could probably be any of that, but in this case, he was making it out like they were just pieces of steak.
Got it.
There's lots of different cuts of steak, But.
Well, yeah, a lot of time with like chicken fried steak and stuff like that, they just use
like the cheap pieces.
Yeah, and then they just tenderize the shit out of it and beat the hell out of it.
That's some of that. You know what, man? That's like poor people food that used to be. It's like the poor people got the worst cuts of meat, and then they figured out ways of making it awesome. And that's some of the best food in the world, man. Like cube steak, it's like completely inedible, and they just pound it to smithereens, and they pour gravy on top. It's delicious, man.
Great.
Goddamn delicious.
I kind of want that. I'm gonna have to go to like Cracker Barrel or something.
I might have a piece of leftover venison up there. I don't know, but if I do,
I'm eating it.
You could have it, buddy.
Thanks, man.
So it was
that's pretty cool, man. I'm glad you finally got one.
Yeah,
I remember when you didn't get that one. That was like a traumatizing experience.
It bothered me for a year.
Yeah.
So I guess for the audience who never heard the story. So basically what happened was I decided I wanted to get back into hunting because I did it with my dad growing up. And my dad's been sick for a long time. And I just thought because of those memories I had as a young man being as important as they were to me, that I thought it would be worthwhile to maintain that hobby that I did with my dad when I was a kid. And when he's gone, I would be able to carry that on. It was something that spoke to me. It was important to me. So I wanted to get back into it. And I had an opportunity a couple of years ago to take a shot at a buck. And it was very exciting. That's the one I told you about where I was like rubber legged and couldn't even get down from my tree stand. But in that case, I did shoot a buck, and it happened to be low. I could tell because when you don't really see the impact. You're so excited when that trigger surprises you when it goes off. It's like for a second, everything goes black. I didn't see anything, but afterwards, the second later, I saw like a puff of white hair, and that's not good. You see a puff of white hair, you know that on a white-tailed deer, its belly has white hair. The rest of its body is a tan color. So I hit it low. So I didn't hit a lung, I didn't hit a heart, I hit it low. I hit its belly. And we tracked that deer for hours and hours and never found it. So that bothered me because I knew that deer almost certainly was going to die, and it was waste, and I took its life, and it was very hard on me, and it bothered me, and I knew that I wasn't going to feel okay about it. At least I thought that I wouldn't feel okay about it until I was successful, until I was responsible, and I killed the deer cleanly, and I was respectful, and I did everything I was supposed to do, and the deer would feed my family, and it'd be worth the sacrifice, and all that stuff that you want a hunter to feel. That's part of what confused me so much about this kill, is that I didn't feel a lot of those things that I thought I would feel. We don't have to beat that dead horse. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what I was going to say. I had something. Oh, I was going to ask you, this is not what I had. This is a different thing, but did you tell your dad?
Oh, yeah. So I sent my dad a photo of the deer. I'll show it to you. And then I was busy because I had to go get the tree stand. I had to take it back to the truck. I had to then circle back and get the deer and got it, and then drag the deer back out of the woods. And it was an absolute ordeal, man. I was sweating. I was exhausted. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do that hunt. It's all kinds of things about it are difficult, you know? Where was I going with this? What was I answering?
I forget. Oh no, if you called your dad, that's
right.
Oh
yeah. So I sent him the picture. But my phone was on silent, right? Cause I was in the woods. So I didn't hear him respond to me, but eventually when I pulled my phone out, he was like, I saw a series of texts from him. He was like, "What am I seeing?" And he was like, exclamation point. And he was like, call me as soon as you can,
That's
you know?
awesome.
So I called him and told him the story. Now that's one thing you have to understand about hunting is one of the biggest parts about hunting is sitting around the fire afterwards and telling you the story of the hunt. If it's an unsuccessful hunt, it's a bad story.
It's a bummer.
If it's a successful hunt, it's like a hero story.
Yeah, it's triumphant.
Yes. And you share the stories of failure and success. And I think that part of that is like the young hunters will learn from the old hunters. Just like if you're telling any story, you pick up the moral of the story. You learn from storytelling. Storytelling is very important. It's a dying art. It's very sad. It's something that needs to be resurrected. But sitting around the campfire telling stories, this is one of those things, just like fishing stories. And they become tall tales, you know? And the stories do, every time you tell them, they get a little different. But it's part of the charm of those stories. But I didn't have, apart from Jeff, who was with me, I couldn't tell anybody the story, but wanted very badly to tell my dad the story because that's part of it. That's always part of it. And I never had my own story to tell. So this was my opportunity. So I told that story when I the next day I called my uncle, Jim, in Missouri, because he would be part of those hunting groups when I was a kid growing up. He's the only other guy that I know that hunts that, at least the member of my family. So I called him and told him the story, and he was very excited too, very happy for me and all that. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah, man.
I think my dad killed his first deer when he was like 10 years old or something.
That's crazy.
I'm almost 40, so it took me a long time.
Yeah. Well, at least you got it. It's funny talking about your dad. It makes me, used to where was that kid whose name was Jerry from? Where were we talking about that?
He rode my bus. He lived down the street from me.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's right. I think you said that's your dad's name, and I think that your dad is the only Jerry I know. I think so. I think, and your dad is like not a boy; he's very much a man.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jerry to me is just like not a kid's name.
Yeah,
it's like a kid named Carl. Although I actually kind of like that name.
Carl, yeah. So my dad's name is obviously Jerry, but his name's Jerome.
Yeah.
And one thing's funny about that is this is probably an inappropriate thing to say, but nobody ever thinks that Jerome is a white guy. Everybody always thinks Jerome is a black name. I don't know why that is, but does that sound right to you? Does Jerome sound like a black name, like a black guy?
Jerome, very easily could be a black guy name.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
I really like the name Jerome, actually.
Yeah. And my brother's middle name is very unusual name. It's a family name, belonged to my great grandfather. I'm not going to use it on the air for anonymity, but there's another name in my family that is like that. You would think it's a black dude's name. Yeah.
All right. Is it Lontavius?
No, it's not. But
No.
But this is an interesting topic.
You see man, what are those dudes' names?
Key and Peele?
Yes.
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Aaron. Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
That,
yeah.
It's so funny.
But that's an interesting thing. Why do you think it is? Because it's kind of an unusual thing when I say it sounds like a black guy's name. Because what does that mean? You know? But we know what as Americans, you and I, we know what we mean.
Yeah.
And there's people listening here that are probably like, that's a racist thing to say.
That's fine.
But even those people, they know what I mean.
Yeah.
But the question is, why? Why is it that the black community in the United States would choose unusual names?
They're gonna get canceled.
That would choose unusual names. I don't know. Like it's intentional, and they have the whole catalog of names that everybody else in the culture chooses from. But they kind of do their own thing. And a lot of times those names are I don't know, like they're definitely not traditional, but some of them seem to be invented, right? Yeah. Like names that didn't ever exist before. What do you think that is?
I think that it is just a method of separating themselves from the white community, the white community.
Yeah.
I think it's just a way of setting themselves apart, just differentiating.
Yeah.
I think that the names, and I also think the style of speak, Ebonics, whatever,
right.
I don't know. Do they still use the word Ebonics?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Yeah.
They must, unless there's another name for it now.
You know what the etymology of Ebonics is?
No. Do you?
I don't, but I have a feeling it's ebony and then
phonics.
Phonics. Yeah.
That's weird. If that's the case, that's fucked up. I think that's a little fucked up.
That is good. I mean, I don't,
So listen, I think that the separating themselves is a consequence. I think it's like a social consequence of any cultural norms, especially if you're inventing new names entirely. And like you say, the manner of speech is different, and it's different. It's even different culturally. Like if you talk to somebody in Atlanta or somebody in New Orleans or somebody in white or black, it doesn't matter. You're going to get different accents. You're going to get different manners of speech and turns of phrase and things like that. I wonder because we talk about this from time to time, if it has to do with regaining a cultural identity, they're going to invent one because their cultural identity has been taken from them, which is the truth. It's like if I was from I don't really know any African names. Do you know? Yeah, I guess I can think of some basketball players like Dikembe Mutombo or something. So let's take somebody like that. I don't know what part of Africa he's from, but let's say he's from East Africa somewhere.
Barack Obama's from Kenya.
Yeah, I heard that rumor. So suppose you're an American, and you have a connection to your past. You know where you come from. You might name your son Dikembe. You might say, I'm not gonna call this kid Chuck. Even though I'm living in America, I'm gonna pass on my culture. We're gonna call this beautiful child Dikembe, and that's cool, man. But nobody here knows where they come from anymore. And I'm talking about white people and black people both. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. And so maybe that's an attempt to regain a cultural identity for themselves. But because they don't have a connection to whatever it might have been, they invent one. It definitely seems to be the case with Kwanza.
Yeah.
Listen, totally invented.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it, but I know it didn't exist in the 50s.
I know that there are a lot of black people who don't take Kwanzaa seriously. They think it's some stupid shit.
Yeah, I think it's most people in the United States.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Well, I mean, it's definitely most white people. Well, I don't know that I should say most white people think it's stupid shit. I would go out on a limb and say that I probably think it's pretty stupid.
Yeah.
I mean,
It reminds me. It reminds me of Wicca, and I'll tell you that. Like, you get it. You get it.
Oh yeah.
So it's like we came up with this religion in the '60s, right? Wicca, and
the dude who created it is some like hippy dippy sex maniac who's just like trying to fuck hippie chicks. I mean, like the dude. Unsurprisingly, the guy was kind of a creep.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, it kind of reminds you of like some L. Ron Hubbard shit. You know, like some Scientology shit. Yep. It's a complete Wicca is a completely invented religion that's hypothetically based on remnants of pagan religion that we hypothetically still have. The truth is, we have almost no evidence of how pagan religions were practiced. Yeah. Almost none, especially if you exclude classical Greece and Rome, almost none. We have almost no idea. And this guy has thrown together bits and pieces of remnants of pagan religion that's even disconnected, like Celtic religion, Germanic religion, you know, and he's cobbled them together into the semblance of some kind of a faith and pretending like it has deep ancient roots. And that's, you know, it's bullshit. Maybe it's the best you can do in this situation. If you're trying to like reinvent that ancient religion and you have nothing to go on, maybe it's the best you got.
I don't think so.
No.
There are people on YouTube and things like that who are, you know, some of them are scholars, some of them are not, you know, like, you know, maybe they have like bachelor's degrees or something, but they're not, you know, but they're still very intelligent and informed people. And they think that Wicca's a joke, and they say the things that you just said, like that he has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
They would say something, you know, to the effect of, I'm much more informed than he is, and I don't really have any idea. That being said, there are people like, I believe the one guy, Jackson Crawford, I think is the guy's name. He's really interesting.
Yeah.
He, you know, he speaks whatever Old Norse and
cool. Yeah.
You know, translates things, and he also is like a cowboy. He lives in Montana. He's just a cool fucking dude. And this other guy, I cannot remember what this guy's name is, but his YouTube channel is called Norse Magic and Beliefs. I think that guy's super interesting, and he's read like everything that there is to read in that. You know, all of the source material.
Nice.
A lot of the people who wrote on the source material. So he's just super informed, and a lot of his ideas of what might have happened are just very interesting.
Yeah, I gotta put that on the list.
Yeah, I'll send you a video of his.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if it's insulting to compare the invention of Kwanza to Wicca, but it seems appropriate to me. It seems like maybe they have more source material for Kwanza, but I also think Kwanza, I could be wrong about this, that it pulls from different African traditions, not just from one place, but from different African traditions.
It's like Pan-African.
Yeah. And to me, I don't know, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like it's like in our country, you've got these universalist churches now that will say, you know, like you can kind of believe whatever you want and still belong to this church. Yeah. It's kind of like that. It undermines it to me. It's like, well, you don't really believe anything, then do you?
Yeah.
And
I completely agree with you.
And if Kwanza pulls from different African traditions, then it kind of feels the same way. It's like, oh, okay, but it doesn't. This holiday doesn't actually mean anything because it's not from this country. It's not from that country. It's a hodgepodge. You know.
I don't like these manufactured. So I don't know, when people have small groups, they have their own traditions, and that is, by its very nature, exclusionary to the people who don't have those traditions.
Correct.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's good and interesting.
Yes.
And I don't like these kind of modern religionish, traditionish kind of things like Kwanzaa and Wicca that just squeeze all the life out of everything.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
And yeah, I'm not a fan.
I'm with you. There's even like a degree of that happening with like Christmas, for instance. We know that, and we know that we have all these Norse traditions that get adopted into this Jewish Judeo-Christian thing. That's kind of the same thing. Like we're taking beliefs from different, completely unrelated religions, and we're putting them together and pretending like it's a cohesive holiday that makes sense. It's kind of strange that it does make sense.
Yeah.
It only makes sense because we all agreed to it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like we're going to take the Yule log from Germany. We're going to take, the Christ story from the Middle East, which is connected to, older stories, like Egyptian stories and so forth. We're going to cobble them all together. We're going to plug in St. Nicholas and, all the mushroom stuff, all the mushroom imagery into Fat Man Santa Claus. It's very strange, man.
Yeah, it is. I kind of have some kind of weird level of respect for the type of Christians who are like, no Santa Claus shit,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, on some level, like, it's if you have kids, it's fun and you want to, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
But on another level, I do think that there's something to that level of, like strictness, that we're not going to glorify anything that isn't what this is really about,
Yeah.
And if you believe, if you're a Christian and you believe, I mean, that's a big thing, that's no joke.
Yeah.
So
how would you think about if we, rather than blending all these traditions together the way we did, whether like in a melting pot like the United States, if people just all had their own Christmas traditions? So like Nordic people did Yule logs and that sort of thing, Christmas trees, but
yeah, I think that would be better.
Like you go over to your friend's house and like they got their own food and their own types of decorations. It would be cool. Yeah. It would be better in a lot of ways. And you wouldn't have such a giant commercialization of it, right? Because if everyone's doing their own thing, not everyone's buying, putting themselves in debt every December for Christmas presents. Mm-hmm. It would be different things that different households were doing.
You have that on some level. Like when you go over to someone's house for Thanksgiving, you're like, oh, this is how you make sweet potatoes.
It's like, oh, your stuffing sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like, holy shit, these are the best potatoes I've ever had.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit of that, but it definitely would be more interesting. It would be better to have like you stop over at your Nordic friend's house and they've got like an actual Yule log, though, I really have no idea what but the way that it's supposed to be, as opposed to just whatever the generic idea of a Yule log is for people who have no fucking idea what it is, like me, basically.
Yep.
I mean, I know kind of what it is, but
there's so much flavor and it benefits everyone who's outside of the group to be able to peer in and see that richness, that example of how you can do this thing that's familiar in a different way. And we're trying to destroy that
all the time, everywhere. We just flatten out everything interesting about it. It's like, what is one of the most like base experiences you can have with another culture? It's the food,
Yeah.
And
the music.
And, like Chinese food is, I'm sure there's a lot of delicious food, but then you go to Panda Express and it's, I mean, don't get me wrong. I
Sugar
like Panda
chicken.
Express.
Yeah.
But it's not Chinese, you know?
It's true, man. And it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like, there's like a pull towards homogeneity, right? The culture wants people to be the same. And we're fighting against that in all kinds of ways. And the way we were talking about the Black community forming identities for themselves when it was robbed from them by the culture, that's just another example of that. It's like the society as a collective is pulling us all to be the same. And you can see that happening in the government. And we ourselves are always fighting against that that urge to conform. Nobody likes to conform. So it's just like it's a battle.
A lot of people say they don't like to conform, but fucking love to conform. The conforming is their shit.
We have to conform in order to get along to some degree, right?
Sure.
But people still want to be unique.
Yeah.
I certainly do.
Talking about people conforming and doing things, I don't know, maybe against their logic or against their better judgment, to fit in or to be able to fit in. It reminds me of the shot, the Jabby McJab. So you see a lot of it. I mean, I guess one of the companies, maybe Moderna or Pfizer, is they're looking into all of this myocarditis.
Yep.
They're just now, after they've injected tons of fucking people looking into this,
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It's very strange.
It's weird as hell.
It's very strange. If they find out that there's significant health risks to a significant portion of the population, if they determine that eventually and everyone agrees to it, we're going to be in this situation where the government at the highest level and society at the highest level, big corporations and peer pressure and the whole thing, were for years forcing it down everybody's throat, some willingly, some less willingly, and the blood will be on our collective hands. And we did that out of fear. And there's something very, very off-putting and dark about that.
You know what makes it even more dark and off-putting is the fact that now it's like not even a big deal,
True. Yeah.
It doesn't fucking matter at all. You were going to kill grandma if you didn't get it, if you didn't wear the mask and get the vaccine. And now it's like just not that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah.
They want us to forgive them.
They do. But they're still like Biden is still saying, go get vaccinated. Fauci's still saying, go get your boosters. So even now, when they're starting to become a little bit of a public, at least interest in figuring out, getting to the bottom of all these potential side effects. Even now, with that happening, there's still the government at the highest levels are still saying, this is the best thing for you. Go get your vaccine. So that's going to be the hardest thing to defend if this all comes, to a head.
Yep.
And it might not.
Yeah. I'm just proud to say that they never got me, man.
Yeah.
They never got me.
They didn't get me. They tried very, very hard. Yeah. It's disappointing. What do you think about the Texas federal judge in Texas putting a hold on the student loan forgiveness that Biden's trying to do?
I just don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a couple years ago, I would have been like, no, we shouldn't pay it. But, it's not taxpayer money, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, honestly, I do kind of still feel that way.
Yeah.
But I just don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Like, we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Pay people's fucking. Just let them not matter.
I've got
a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. I got a big chunk of student loans, and I
pay those fuckers off, man.
Yeah, I don't care. Like I don't really care one way or the other. If they
that's true.
If they forgive them, they forgive them. If they don't, they don't, and I'll deal with it whichever way it goes.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have student loans, I think I would probably feel more like what you were describing. We shouldn't be paying. We shouldn't be doing it. Because I'm just as hypocritical as anybody else. At least I admit to it.
I don't have any student debt because I didn't go to college. Actually, I did go to college for a couple of classes. All right. And the one like serious class that I took has actually come in handy in my job. It was a blueprint reading class.
Nice.
I fucking read blueprints at this job.
Nice.
So
nice.
Fate.
You know who else tells that story?
Who?
Joe Rogan.
What story?
That he went to college for like one class.
Oh yeah.
And then he was like, "This isn't for me."
Well, I got a podcast, so I'm gonna be the next Joe Rogan.
Basically, Joe Rogan.
I think I've said this on the podcast before, but now that we are on YouTube and we're like moving up in the world, pretty soon we're gonna be famous.
Pretty soon, any
day,
minute.
We're gonna take off. So I am preemptively setting a goal for myself for our fame.
Yep.
And this is official.
Okay.
We need to put this out there. I'm calling out Jake Paul.
Oh shit.
We're gonna box.
Oh shit.
So after he's done with
mopping you up,
Andrew Tate.
Okay, yeah.
Which I'm not sure he's gonna win that fight, but it's time. It's time. The challenge has been leveled.
Listen, I don't know who Andrew Tate is.
You don't know who Andrew Tate? Yeah, you do.
Doesn't pop in my head immediately.
Cobra Tate?
Even if he loses that fight, he wins. Because he's going to make so much money.
Yeah. But I just question if he loses, does that affect the money making machine? You know,
I don't think it would immediately because like there's a lot of hype for the rematch, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if he gets whooped twice in a row, then it starts to decline. I think.
Yeah.
You know. Then he goes to work for the WWE.
Oh, his brother already has.
Oh, is that right?
Dude, they are fucking talented, man. They're
Really?
like impressive.
Is his brother actually wrestling?
Logan
already?
Paul, yeah. He's not like a wrestler. He's not like there on a regular basis, but you know, he's a huge celebrity, so they have him come in at like WrestleMania.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Seriously good. He's like, it's surprising.
What is he displayed? What has he displayed that he's capable of doing?
Solid wrestling ability, like
really?
all around.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was a fan growing up.
Probably. I mean, who wasn't? I mean, everyone loves wrestling.
Yeah. Everybody loves wrestling.
You don't. I know you don't. You think it's goofy as hell, but
I mean, listen, I appreciate the athleticism and the beautiful ladies, just like every other red-blooded American. But the soap opera stuff and the stories and the backstories and the character development can suck my dick. I don't care for it, man.
Yeah.
I understand the appeal. It just seems like Matt's going to hate this. The soap opera piece seems like something a girl would like, and I don't understand.
What are the TV shows that you watch? I mean, it's all dry. It's all fictitious drama. I mean, all of it is like something a girl would like.
Yeah, but you missed the point, man. It's the soap opera-iness. It's the over-the-topiness. It's the unbelievability. Like, if you're gonna do that, make it realistic, man. Like, as an example, imagine if remember that thing that happened with Conor McGregor and who's the guy where he threw the like chair at the bus?
I forget. I know what you're talking about.
So, it all happened at the build up to one of Conor McGregor's fights. Imagine if all of that was staged.
It might have been.
It might have been.
That's fine. They're making it exciting.
Exactly. Yeah. But the fact that I have to ask, imagine if it was staged, means it wasn't obvious that it was staged. And the WWE, it's obvious. It's obvious. And the character arcs, and everybody knows it. It's like, who's going to get bad blood with who next? It all depends on who the fans want to see fight each other.
I just don't understand when you watch a TV show, you don't think that. You're like, oh, this fucking Daenerys Targaryen, like she's actually got beef with these people from Marine, like
if Daenerys if Daenerys Targaryen grabbed a microphone,
you're like, it's not real.
If she grabbed a microphone and got on the stage and said, "Listen, brother," and
she does. She says Dracarys, and
it's fucking cool, and it's
fire on people.
But it's
goofy as shit.
The difference is that you wouldn't call Game of Thrones soap opera. You wouldn't.
I guess. I don't know.
There's a point I'm trying to make, and maybe I don't have the words to make. It's the delivery. It's the way it's fake. It's the way it's fake, man. The stuff that's not fake is impressive. The athleticism, to me, I watch it and I'm like, that's fucking impressive.
Yeah.
When Brock Lesnar did a swan dive onto his neck, when Mick Foley jumped off of the top of a cage onto it like a double stacked table, that's fucking cool. Just like watching Jackass is cool.
I love that your examples of them being athletic are Brock Lesnar failing and almost killing himself, and Mick Foley, like unarguably the least athletic wrestler of all time.
That dude jumped off a 2-story building onto fucking a whole bed full of thumbtacks. Dude, or barbed wire or whatever.
Stack on that guy like a hefty bag.
The sack or the sack?
His sack is like a hefty bag. The guy's got balls.
Talking about his ball sack,
but he's not like the most athletic dude.
No.
He's just kind of like an average.
The point is, you can't fake that.
Yeah,
that is cool. But then there's also like
exactly. It's cool.
Yeah. So if I were gonna watch wrestling,
you're arguing for wrestling.
Well, if I'm watching it, that's what I'm enjoying about it. That's all I'm saying. What I don't enjoy about it is all the bullshit, all the soap opera bullshit.
Yeah, I guess you just don't get it, man.
I guess I don't get it. Yeah.
It's not supposed to be. So for like little kids, it's supposed to be like, oh, this is real. This is. Otherwise, it's just funny. It's just like a lot of times it's people. I mean, sometimes they do try to sell drama, but sometimes there is legitimate drama. So, like, remember what happened with Edge and Lita and Matt Hardy?
Yeah, when
that was real drama.
You're right. But it was way more compelling, wasn't it? When it's real.
Yeah. And everything that happened with CM Punk, although I can't fucking stand CM Punk. I think that dude's a prick.
Even the Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart stuff was real,
Yeah.
The bad blood between those two guys.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Shout out to Matthew.
I hope Matt's listening and hears me defending wrestling, because I do love wrestling. I don't watch it really anymore, but I should. You're like,
I don't know, man. It's just a, like, I don't know, if I sat down and I watched it with people who enjoyed it and I did it long enough to kind of like get into it, I'm sure just like anything else, I could learn to get into it.
It's funny, man. A lot of the non-wrestling stuff, it's like I said, it's supposed to be funny. You remember Billy Gunn?
Yeah.
Badass Billy Gunn?
Yeah.
He's in this new thing called AEW, and he's with this tag team, and they have this thing where they, like, instead of bumping fists, do this.
They do this?
They do this.
Oh, that's weird.
Scissor me, and they do that. And he's a part of that. And I think they probably, I don't know if they can't call him Billy Gunn because the WWE like trademarks people's names and you can't use them. So I don't know, but I think they call him Daddy Ass, which is pretty funny. So they say "Scissor me, Daddy Ass."
Oh god,
which is just fucking funny.
It's
man.
That's like old school WWF shit. You remember when WWF was risque?
AEW, from what I understand, is pretty good. There's some wrestling. There's some updates in the wrestling world that even you might be interested in. But I don't want to give them away because we might have to talk about them later.
Oh, well, let me tell you a story that popped in my head while you were talking about the difference between a kid watching wrestling and an adult watching wrestling. When I was a little kid, I used to play with G.I. Joes, and I loved it because I was big into like karate and ninja fighting, and they were so posable. And I'm talking about the little G.I. Joes from the 90s, 80s, and 90s, not the big 70s G.I. Joes. And there was a way of holding the G.I. Joes. I wish I could get them, where you can use your fingers to launch the kicks and the punches.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to do those little battles with them. But I remember when I was really young, like 5, 6 years old, like Christmas would roll around and you'd get a new one. And immediately it's a new shiny one that you didn't have before. Immediately he becomes the champion. You're like, this is the Christ Redeemer figure. This G.I. Joe is going to kick all of the G.I. Joe's asses. This is my chosen champion. And you anoint him, and then you release him into the group, and he kicks everybody's ass, and you make him the champion. He's the new champion. So every time I would get a new G.I. Joe, he would struggle through climbing the ladder in these duels, the imaginary duels, until he became the champion.
It's like a Mortal Kombat situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's how I see professional wrestling too. It's like they are always introducing new talent so they can change up the storyline, and they got new guys coming in and old guys leaving and all that. And so that's how it always played out to me. I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, Roman Reigns, he's the new G.I. Joe. Roman Reigns is the new G.I. Joe. And there's always a new one.
Yep, that's true. You're talking about WWE though.
I just did, yeah.
And the writing in that, it's like stale, it's garbage. WWE is not good.
Is it going to have a renaissance again, do you think, or is it going down?
Well, I think that things like this company AEW are good for WWE because it makes you have to do something, be exciting, get people
competition.
To watch.
Yeah.
So in the long run, I think that it's probably good. Did you hear about what happened with Vince McMahon?
No. What happened?
He had to pay. Well, so what happened is that people found out that he paid a bunch of hush money to some lady because he slapped her in the face with his penis or something like that.
Okay.
Probably not that dramatic, but like he did some inappropriate stuff.
Vince did, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And paid her out, and then continued being the boss for I think a while.
Was she an employee?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I don't know who she was, but. So he could just, life went on as usual after that. But then it came out that he paid that money, so that he got found out. So he stepped down. I don't think he's running the WWE anymore.
He stepped down
which I think is probably good.
He stepped down because of a sexual scandal. Because
it came out that he paid this money out.
If she was an employee or if she was underage or something, I would understand. Otherwise, a rich man who's jacked up on testosterone cheated on his wife. Big fucking whoop.
I don't know, man.
Why would he step down for that? I don't understand that at all, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's still obviously got financial interest in the company, but
who's the face running it now?
I don't
publicly
know.
Is it
I don't know, man.
Triple H or something? Who is it?
I don't know. Don't watch it at all.
Matt, who is it?
Who is it? Call in. Oh, we're not live. Oh, are we going to go live? No, we're not live.
Well, we're
live on this app, but we're not live where anybody's going to be watching it.
No, but we could do this exact same scenario live. It basically would be, it was unedited, so it would be identical to this. So we could. Yeah. It's
just another thing to do, though.
Just another thing to do.
Yeah. I haven't checked YouTube. How we doing?
We're getting a little traction, Not much, a little bit, whatever.
All right.
I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
So I wanted to tell you about this book. Also, this book I'm reading. I'm not reading it. I'm listening to it. You know how people say they're reading books, but no one reads books anymore. They're just listening to it. So I'm listening to a Stephen King book because I never read one before. And Stephen King is like a legendary author. Everyone has favorite Stephen King books, and he's this huge deal. Why have I never read a Stephen King book? And I even listened to some Dean Koontz back in the day, and I liked it. So why not Stephen King? It's a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Koontz.
It's
just a funny last name, man. Sorry.
My wife was on an all-girls softball team one time, and their team name was the
Koontz?
Magnificoons.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a British person calling somebody a bunch of Koontz.
Yeah, exactly. What was I just saying? I was telling you about
Stephen King.
So anyway, I had a couple Audible credits, and they advertised.
I got 6 of those motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, choose carefully.
Yeah.
Choose carefully.
What did you get? What was the Stephen King title?
It's called Fairy Tale.
Oh,
I think it's.
Why would you pick that one?
Well, they advertised it for me. I was just like, okay.
Come on.
But
man.
There's more reasons than that. I think it's maybe like his new one or something. But also because I've been reading fairy tales. I've been reading all that stuff.
Fair enough.
And here's what's interesting.
Because I was thinking that was a real gay choice, to be honest. Fairy tales.
Yeah.
I mean, The Stand. You should go with The Stand.
Yeah.
It's a long ass book.
This book is not the most original so far, and some of that's on purpose.
He's a fucking turd, man.
Do you remember that show? It was a show they did where it was like half takes place in the modern day and half takes place in like medieval fairyland, and they're telling the story fairy tale stories.
A Kid in King Arthur's Court?
No, it's a show.
Oh, it's a show.
Whatever.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
No. Anyway, let me tell you about this book. So I was reading the fairy tales, and that's probably why I was attracted to the book. Started listening to it, kind of got into it. Without spoiling anything, the premise is like a teenage boy meets this old man, has this auspicious connection with this weird old hermit man. He ends up leaving all his house and small fortune to this boy. So this like 18-year-old, and he finds the shed and continue to another world. And that's like this fairy tale world. That's why they call the story fairy tale. And he finds out as he goes along that everybody he meets is playing a role in a familiar fairy tale story. It's like he recognized, oh, I think I'm
the fox.
He in this case, he's Jack and the Beanstalk. He finds out that he's playing the role of Jack.
No shit.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting.
It doesn't sound that good.
It's kind of interesting. I'm about halfway through the book right now, so I'll let you know. It's kind of cheesy and kind of predictable in certain ways, but it's been keeping my attention. But there's also several references to the Never-Ending Story,
really,
in the book. And I've been reading. Remember how I showed you that I bought that Never-Ending Story with the Orin on it? I started reading it to my oldest daughter, and she's eating it up.
Oh shit, really?
I was really, really happy about it.
Yeah.
Remember how we were talking about, well, not only was I happy about it because I loved that movie, and when I was about her age is when I got introduced to it, and blew my mind and made a big impression on me. So I want it to make a big impression on her too. But we're reading the book, and I watched the movie when I was a kid. So we're going to watch the movie, but we're going to watch it after we've read the book. And it took her a little bit. I told her she needs to like close her eyes and listen to me tell the story and try to imagine it. And then that way she would like learn how to get into a story. And that goes back to what I was saying before about storytelling being a dying thing and people needing to resurrect it.
Yeah.
She also is learning how to read, and she's really good at it, man. And she wants to read a little bit, and there's lots of new words in there for her. And the ones she can't read, I'll tell her. But the point is, her focus is on it. She's clearly enjoying it. She's not like losing interest and zoning out. Yeah, man. So I've been reading to her, and she'll ask me at the end of the day. She's like, "Daddy, will you read me more of that story?" So awesome.
That is awesome.
The reason I bring it up is because I'm reading that to her. I start listening to this audio book, and there's all these references to the never-ending story, and it's one of those weird coincidences, like what are the chances that I would have bought that never-ending story book? I saw it on Amazon. They recommended it for me. I bought it, started reading it to my daughter. I only bought that book, Fairy Tale, because I was reading fairy tales, and the references to the never-ending story, which I just bought and started reading to my daughter, and they're all popping up. You know what I mean? It's just
Weird.
I don't know if it's weird or not. Maybe it's just an ordinary coincidence, but it seems weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just you talking about the stories,
Yeah.
With the 6 Audible credits that I have, I do want to get like at least a few fiction titles. I don't.
Have you done Wheel of Time?
I don't know. I have no idea what that is.
Wheel of Time is a Robert Jordan series, famous sci-fi. Robert Jordan. You might try that. There's a Stephen King one called The Dark Towers or something. It's like a big long series.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So if you're looking for something like that,
nah.
No? Nah. What are you looking for?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure it out.
Fiction though, right?
Fiction. Yes.
Yeah. One of the things maybe I bought actually. I wanted to read Ayn Rand's philosophy because I never have.
Mm-hmm.
Her objectivism or her. She has a book called something.
The Virtue of Selfishness.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. I think I got that one on Audible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that was what I used my other credit on.
You listen to it at
all?
No,
not yet, but I'm going to. Yeah. I want to. I want to hear what she has to say about it because
Ayn Rand is one of those people who, did you see that Graham Hancock was on Rogan?
I haven't listened to it yet, but yes, he was on there, and I'm excited about it.
He's got a TV show, a Netflix series.
I started watching it yesterday.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. I don't know how that completely flew under the radar until it was out already.
Yeah.
Before I heard about it.
Yep.
But who were we just talking about before I started talking about Graham Hancock?
Oh shit, man! You caught me off guard.
Because the reason I brought Graham Hancock up, Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand, yeah. Yeah.
The reason I brought Graham Hancock up is because Ayn Rand is more like this than Graham Hancock is. Ayn Rand is like more like this than maybe anybody in the fucking world. Is that she is convinced that she is right about everything.
Yeah.
You cannot argue with Ayn Rand, and if you do, she thinks you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time you are an idiot because she was a genius.
Yeah.
I'll give her that.
Yeah.
That being said, she didn't have everything figured out. And Graham Hancock just strikes me like that a little bit when he's talking about all these things. And I think that Graham Hancock is a genius too. I think that I'm on team Graham Hancock when it comes to like being open about the possibilities of history. That being said, I am nowhere near as convinced about so many details as Graham Hancock is. He's like, yes, they definitely did psychedelics. They did, he's like, he knows so much about. Yeah. It's just really funny to me.
So I love Graham Hancock.
Me too.
I think he's pretty intellectually honest.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he's okay speculating. He has no problem speculating, which is what people have. Real scientists have trouble with him because he's okay speculating based on what they would consider insufficient evidence, but it's not no evidence.
Yeah.
And the thing about Ayn Rand is that you frame it like she's certain that she's right, and I see it as she's convinced herself. Like I don't think Ayn Rand was incapable of changing her mind. I just think there was no arguments that were made to her, or in her mind that could have been made to her that would have persuaded her otherwise. She was so convinced already.
That seems like bullshit to me.
Yeah?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't think that you can if you're an intelligent person like Ayn Rand and you're surrounding yourself with other intellectual people, there's no way that somebody's not going to chip away at something that you think eventually. And she, from what I understand, was like a brick wall. Like she literally, and like I think you said that it's not necessarily that she thought that she was right about everything, just that she had convinced herself.
Yeah.
From everything I know about Ayn Rand, that is not true. She thought that she was right and that you were wrong, and that's all there was to it.
See, maybe there's not a difference between that and having convinced yourself. It's like because I feel that way about myself. Like, there are certain things that I talk about, like authoritatively. Excuse me, that's the word.
Yeah.
But it's not because I know that I'm certain. It's because I've been unable to rock that ship and nobody else has done it. And so until they do, I'm as certain as I'm going to be. That makes me confident. And anybody who brings an argument against it that doesn't sufficiently undermine it, I will write off, so that, that could be what's going on. I don't know. I know she was a kind of a grating personality, and because she had such a high IQ and all that, if you're convinced and you have an IQ of 180 or whatever the heck she had, and you're convinced, nothing you've been able to think can chip away at your theory enough to undermine it. Confidence is pretty much certainty, at least in her mind,
Yeah. I've heard people say that people with really high IQs are actually surprisingly easy to influence.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
I forget where I heard that, but I know that I heard someone say that. It could be complete bullshit. But
it goes back to that MMA analogy we were making. How you can have somebody who's like, and to use your analogy, you can have somebody who's got the highest IQ in the world, and they could outsmart anybody. Then you got another person with a different kind of superpower. He's the wrestler who comes in to defeat the striker. And he comes in and he doesn't have the IQ you have, but he can talk circles around you, or he, whatever. He's got the secret. He's got the kryptonite. That's interesting.
It's interesting
because there's always gives and takes.
Gives and takes.
Gives and takes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that translates to fighting. Like, if you could be not the strongest fighter and not the most technical fighter, but the smartest fighter and win,
Isn't being the most technical fighter being the smartest fighter?
Maybe. But what if you're just not physically capable of being as technical as somebody who's physically superior to you?
Isn't technicality not about physicality, though? Isn't technicality about, technicality is about physicality in the sense that you have to have like an operable body. You can't be like I was going to say cripple. I don't know if that's polite, but so yeah, but otherwise, that's why jiu-jitsu is so held up, because obviously to a certain point, size is going to matter. Like, a very small person with great technique.
Yeah.
If you're too much smaller than a person, you're just going to get ragdolled.
Right. Yeah.
But that being said, there is some level to which technique neutralizes that size advantage, that physical dimension.
You think about somebody like Muhammad Ali, who had all of that, where when he got older to the point where he wasn't able to do what he used to do physically, he still was smart enough to rope-a-dope and tire you out. And, he figured out a way to be a champion even when he lost that spark that he once had. That's brilliant, man.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Hell yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
I don't know. I can't believe you don't know who Andrew Tate is. That's still kind of surprising.
It just doesn't mean nothing like no picture comes to mind, no memory comes to mind when I hear that name.
A lot of people say, this is some hot tea coming at you, that Michaela Peterson, her child, people say that that's Andrew Tate's kid.
Oh shit, I never heard that. No, I never heard that.
Yeah.
She's married and everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well.
But Andrew Tate is just this guy. He's banned off of YouTube and shit now. But he's just this guy who says basically, he says a lot of things that are good, but then he says things I don't know. He says some crazy shit. I can't even really think of anything off the top of my head.
Is he a fighter?
He used to be a fighter.
Okay.
He used to be a kickboxer.
Okay.
But he's not old, he's middle-aged, he's not an old man or anything.
How does he size up to the Paul guy?
He looks like I don't know how tall he is compared to Jake Paul, but he looks like he's a decent sized guy. He looks like he's in good shape.
Okay. Those Paul brothers are
impressive.
They're monsters, man.
Yeah.
They're monsters. Good for them.
Fucking A, man.
Good for them.
Tons of money.
I do think it's interesting how all these fights that are happening. And I think maybe it was COVID that kind of caused the wrench in the gears that allowed this to happen. But all these prize fights that are happening that are, MMA fighters are fighting boxers, and, all this stuff's happening. And it's happening outside of the sanctioned leagues. It's happening on the side, these promotions that they're doing on their own, and they're making lots and lots of money because they're setting up these fights that people actually want to see,
Yeah.
And I wonder if that will be the death knell in like the UFC, in like organized. Maybe you still need like a farm system to bring fighters to your attention. I guess you probably do, right? You can't get rid of the UFC entirely, but it's like, are you more excited when Jake Paul fights Anderson Silva in a non-UFC fight, or are you more excited when like last night? When
I'm not.
No,
I can tell you from I don't really watch UFC anymore, but back when I used to be a big fan of it, I would not have been as excited to watch. I'm not one of these guys who's like, oh, Jake Paul is a fucking bum. He's, all these people are retired. I think it's impressive. That being said, I think if you put him in the UFC or in a boxing match with like a top person in his weight class, he's probably going to get fucked up.
Yeah.
Yep. So no, I would be much more excited for the professional. It's like, do you get excited for a little league football game as you do the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Well, I said that wrong when I said you would be excited. What I mean is more people are buying pay-per-views to see that. That's all I mean.
I got you.
So if that becomes more successful in terms of pay-per-view sales than a main card championship fight in the UFC, what does that mean?
That's weird. It's weird. We just want to watch a bunch of fucking YouTubers punch each other. I think we should fight too. I think we should have like a celebrity boxing match.
Yeah. The two tongues.
You down?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
We have to have boxing gloves. Probably not headgear, but mouthpieces, boxing gloves.
You don't think we should have headgear?
If we do, I'm afraid we'll hit harder.
Oh. I'm coming for you, dude.
Okay, well then headgear it is. Headgear it is. We did some of that. We did some boxing when we were younger.
Yeah, man.
I did it with I boxed Brian a few times, and Brandon. Remember Brandon? You and me.
Throwing
my brother.
Throwing some leather around.
Yeah, it was fun.
Like who's the president?
Joe Biden?
No, not. He is the president. Who's the president that was into like boxing and shit?
Oh, Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt's an interesting character.
He is a really interesting guy. Not necessarily a great person, but
an interesting person.
Very interesting.
That guy had a complex. He had an inferiority complex because he was sick when he was a kid, and his dad was a great man and rich man and all that. And he wanted to like measure up to his dad, but he was a frail guy. He had asthma, and he wasn't able to be like a tough guy. So he like, when he grew up and grew out of it, he like,
it's like, I'm gonna kill every lion in the world.
He's like, I'm gonna go to war. I'm gonna kill a Wild West, and he did all that shit and learned to box and
build a fleet and sail it around the world.
Yeah,
dude, it's crazy.
And I'm pretty sure this is a true story. He plays a role in the history of jiu-jitsu because he brought a master jiu-jitsu, or maybe it was a judo person. I can't remember. I think it was jiu-jitsu, a master from Japan that he brought over to train him at the White House.
Oh.
So Teddy fucking Roosevelt used to do jiu-jitsu with the Japanese master in the White House. How cool is that? That's way cooler than Obama. Everyone seems to think Obama's the coolest president. Teddy Roosevelt might have been the coolest president, man.
This just popped into my head.
Yep.
And there's an Israeli martial art called Krav Maga that definitely should have been called jiu-jitsu.
Krav Maga?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu.
Oh, jiu-jitsu.
They definitely should rename that.
Oh, boy. They missed an opportunity.
They really did.
A marketing opportunity. Good, yeah. You had another zinger earlier with another marketing genius. I can't remember it, but we have it on recording, so we can go back and listen to the tape.
I couldn't remember if it was on the podcast or before.
Oh, it's on the podcast.
Good.
Immortalized.
Good.
We've forgotten it, but it was good as I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, it was the heart of the brawl.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that was what it was.
Yeah. Good man.
Yeah. So what else is going on, man?
What I have been reading, Alfred North Whitehead, and I had to publish.
NW.
Yep.
A&W, like the root beer.
Yeah, A&W,
Crazy.
Alfred North Whitehead. So I have my part 2 of that, or maybe it's part 3. I'm gonna probably have this week coming out. But this past Wednesday, I got busy and I didn't get far enough into it. It's really hard. It's really complicated, man. I've been having to reread shit over and over and over again to make sense of it. But it's been kind of fun in that way because it's a challenge. It's kind of a puzzle, actually. Trying to weed through the language and figure out what he means and then like make sense of it to myself. But I wasn't ready for Wednesday. So I published an episode I did on Onion Unlimited with Daniel. Daniel, I think he's in Australia now. With
nice.
Yeah. By the way,
down under.
Yeah, down under. So she came. So I'll tell that story for those people who don't know. Our buddy on the that comes on the podcast from time to time, Daniel of the Onion Unlimited podcast. He had a relationship. You might call it a correspondence relationship with a lady in Australia.
They're pen pals.
Yeah, basically. And he's in the UK and she's in Australia, so they live very far away. But they really got to like each other, and kind of developed a relationship. Started talking on the phone, talking over the internet. And that lasted for like a year, and they got to know each other, and they really wanted to meet each other, and finally made that happen. And I didn't have a chance to talk to him like in detail about it because I don't want to interrupt him. I don't want to like be that guy.
Yeah.
He's having the adventure of his life right now. Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's
on the other side of the world.
He's on the other side of the world,
meeting some lady that he has these inclinations towards,
and they have a lot in common. They're both former Jehovah's Witnesses that fell out of that. And
no shit, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, that's how they first got talking.
I thought it was just like the spiritual community.
Yeah, and that too. So they had all that in common. Yeah.
I didn't realize that she was a former witness.
Yep.
She has witnessed.
So she came to London to see him.
She had witnessed.
He showed her around.
She's no longer witnessing.
No.
Neither is Torridon.
Neither is Torridon. And so anyway, a week in London, and then they're going to spend a month in Australia together, which is cool. So anyway, he sent me a message just telling me, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but he told me that the gist of it was that it was magical, that they met in person, and then everything just went swimmingly, and that's so reassuring, man. Because I imagine the anxiety leading up to that after having this relationship for a year, and then finally coming to see each other, and all the pressure, and especially with Daniel having been excommunicated from the church, getting divorced, all that shit happened to him. So this is really like a whole new chapter for him, and it's an adventure, and it is for the both of them. It sounds like, and it's like something that happens in the movies. It doesn't really happen. People don't go, to the other side of the world to have a relationship. So it's cool.
Hell yeah.
It's
a beautiful story.
Why was I telling you that?
You were talking about...
because I had to publish an episode last week. It was one Daniel and I did on his podcast, but he's kind enough to send me the audio so that I can republish on this one. So if anybody likes those Daniel Torridon podcasts that we do together, those crossover episodes, you can check them out on Onion Unlimited. He's got lots of interesting stuff on there, including a conversation. He had like 2 conversations, I think, with his buddy Matthew, who he calls Math because he's English. It's like MAF with an F, Math. And so it's his buddy that he's known since he was in kindergarten. So it's like you and I talking, but it's Daniel and Math. And I really ate that shit up. Yeah, I listened to both of those episodes, and they were talking about just stories growing up together and shenanigans they got into. And anyway, so if you're like that, check them out on Onion Unlimited. So I published that one, and then I think I'll be ready to publish this Alfred North Whitehead one on Wednesday this week. It's been really tough though, but really interesting. I find myself disagreeing with some of these people that I'm reading, and some of it I don't want to disagree with Alfred North Whitehead because I like his ideas so much, but I find myself with problems with it. I find myself seeing it differently than other people see it. And I don't know if that means I don't understand it right, or if it means I just have my own perspective and it's valuable. So that's what I'm struggling with right now is I don't want to read what other people think about Alfred North Whitehead. I want to read it and figure out what I think of Alfred North Whitehead. And at least what I think of it is a unique contribution. So that's how I'm thinking about it.
Do you ever wonder, how you said you have to read it over and, make sense of it?
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder if you are not interpreting it in the way that he intended?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. But, I also think that there's a possibility that Alfred North Whitehead didn't understand his own ideas right, and that I do. Isn't that arrogant?
You're like Donald Trump, dude. You're like, wrong.
Wrong. No, but it's like, I don't know, like, and also, if you want to double the arrogance up a little bit, I'm not even done with the book, right?
You're like, this is bullshit.
I'm taking issue. I'm like a third of the way through it. I'm like taking issue with key things. But here's the thing, man. He says that he proposes. This is what he basically says. He says, I'm going to tell you how I think the reality works based on the evidence of our experience, what our experience is like. And so he comes up with this very complicated system, and he has all these words for these things that he's made up. And so it's like kind of Scientology in that way. The made up words, you have to look them up to understand what he means, and nothing's very clear. But basically, just to simplify it, he says that there are these things called eternal objects, which I take to mean eternal objects of experience. These are things that can be experienced. He calls them eternal objects. Then there's these things called actual entities, and they are an experience that's being had, as far as I can tell. And by that, he means reality. Reality is an experience that we're having. So that there are these actual entities, which are experiences that are being had, and there's eternal objects, which are these heavenly, ethereal things that exist in some other realm, hard to describe. They're like Plato's forms,
Got it.
And it's not clear at all what any of that means. It's very, very, very fucking weird. But what kept catching my attention was he said eternal objects, they ingress is the word he uses. Eternal objects attach themselves to actual entities. And that's what makes an experience a particular experience. So it makes it even weirder. So actual entities are experience, but it's like they don't have any form or substance to them. They have to attach themselves to an eternal object to become a particular experience. Otherwise, it's not an experience of Kyle or an experience of the sun or an experience of a flavor. Otherwise, it's just a empty experience. Okay? And so this is the kind of thing I'm supposed to imagine exists. Empty experience and some sort of divine forms that come together to make the experiences that we have. This is very strange. But this is the weird thing. He says that there are a multiplicity of forms. Everything's different. You're not like me. I'm not like this table. Everything's different. So there's eternal objects with an S. Eternal objects, meaning that there are different types of possible forms that an experience can attach to. Maybe an infinite number of forms. And I thought to myself, why would he presume that eternal objects are multiple things? Why can't it just be one thing that's like a stem cell? It could become anything. That's where you get multiple forms from. Why does the thing have to be many? It doesn't make any sense. It's like on the most basic level, you're going to propose these fundamental building blocks of experience. Why do you suppose eternal objects are more than one thing? Like, you haven't explained to me even what an eternal object is well enough for me to go with you entirely. And I still have no idea why you would presume that there are many. And how do you get there? And how many is many? Is it infinite, or is it a certain number? Is it a fixed number? And how do you explain that? So I have all these questions about it. And to my mind, I think if I go with Alfred North Whitehead, eternal objects are one thing. They're not more than one thing. And going back to like my understanding of the kind of mystical experience and the shit that I talk about, what he calls eternal objects is just God. It's just consciousness. It's just something like that. Going back to my lingo, it's not. You wouldn't call God more than one thing. And Alfred North Whitehead tries to do that. In his philosophy, he talks about something called the creative advance, which is above God in a manner of speaking. And then God is an actual entity, just like you and I are actual entities. It's like it becomes very convoluted very quickly. And I just feel like he's overcomplicating it. He's missing something. It's like when I've said this before, but if you can't explain something simply, you don't know it well, right? If somebody asks you, how does a combustion motor work, a combustion engine work, and you don't know, you're like, I got 1,000 words for you, and it's not going to come anywhere close to the real thing. But somebody who's an expert will give you 4 sentences that concisely tell you how a combustion engine works, because they fucking know it. Reading Alfred North Whitehead is like reading somebody who doesn't know it. It's like reading somebody who's, I'm being overly critical.
I was going to say, you can't blame the guy for not knowing, because this stuff is like, nobody knows.
Yes.
So
I don't know, man. I think it's because he's a mathematician. Okay. So he tries to explain everything like everything logically follows from what he said before. And I just don't think, at least at this point, I don't agree with you, man. Like I don't agree with you. You're going to talk with certainty like it's like this is a mathematically precise description, and it doesn't seem that way to me. It seems like it's full of presumptions.
I don't understand why it's any less likely that there are eternal objects, more than one object, maybe an eternal amount of eternal objects. Yep. I don't understand why that is any less likely than it being that the eternal objects can just be anything. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that it's more likely or I don't know what to base it on to say that either one is more likely than the other.
I can tell you what I base it on. Occam's razor.
Yeah.
The most likely solution is the simplest, and one is simpler than many.
Does that seem true in like the field that we're talking about? Because it doesn't seem that simple.
I think it's true in nature, and what we're talking about is nature, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think, and what I'm working towards right now is that eternal objects and actual entities aren't different things. They don't ingress into each other. They aren't different things. What Alfred North Whitehead is trying to describe is one thing that I would call God, and he's making overly complicated. But I could be wrong. I'm very, very open to the idea that I am wrong. I'm not, like I'm telling you, I'm not even all the way done with the book. I probably am talking out of my ass to some degree, but I'm really trying to understand it. And these are genuinely my feelings. Like I'm telling you, I'm doing my best to understand what this guy's saying. And I think that he's wrong. At least he hasn't made it clear to me what he means, man. He keeps saying things like, I'd have to pull out quotes to show you.
I wonder how many people who listen to this podcast are like, this is like the pot calling the kettle black. Fucking, you talk about like the most confusing, like, I mean, I'm interested in that stuff too, but it's not easy to follow.
No.
You have to like really make it like you reading the guy's work. Yeah. You have to like really listen and really put effort into.
Yeah.
It's not like, I can put on a podcast while I'm at work, like a comedy podcast, and just like halfway listen to it, and it's entertaining, and it's all I need it to be.
Yeah.
You're not going to retain anything from like, like one of your solo episodes. You're gonna have to like listen to that motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's like a driving podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would agree. So listen,
you and Mr. North, you have more than
I think so.
Yeah, you guys are like on the same boat.
Yeah, I think so. 100%. Maybe that's why I'm more critical. I think it's important for me to be honest about my impressions and about my I think it's important for me to say that I could be misunderstanding this entirely. It could easily be the fact that this guy's way smarter than me because he is, and I'm failing to grasp it 100%. I just feel like we talked about earlier, there's certain things that I'm pretty convinced of, and when something that he says conflicts with something that I'm convinced of, that's where I start to like push back. And that's what I'm doing, and I've done that with some people more than others. And it may be that the similarities that we share are why I'm being more critical of it.
Yeah.
I'm honestly trying to figure this out.
I don't know if you're noticing this, but I have been noticing it the last few minutes. So I just wanted to point it out. I'm not hearing a ton in my headphones.
Oh no.
So
A ton coming
I
from
mean,
me or
I'm
you?
not, it's enough for me to get through, but I just, want to make sure that we're recording or it's being picked up or whatever.
Definitely is over here. You can tell.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. I'm sure we're good.
And let's see over here. Yep. Looks like it is. Everything looks like it's recording.
All right.
You son bitch. Sorry though. And that just happened like
yeah, it's
randomly?
well, I mean, I don't know if I'm just noticing it or what, but it's I don't have a ton of volume in my headphones.
Do you think maybe the hoodie you have on over your ears is causing that?
No.
All right. Couldn't be.
No, I don't think so.
Couldn't be, man. So Alfred North Whitehead. So I think what I'll do is continue to talk about it. Like if I change my mind about it at some point, I'll let you know and let everyone know if I was wrong. I think that's important. But for now, I'm taking some issue with the model. It's all about like, how I like write on those Post-its, I make little pictures.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that Jordan Peterson gets shit for from these lefties that hate him, is that he has all these crude diagrams in his Maps to Meaning book. He writes down images that will help him to understand the relationships of things he's fooling around with, ideas he's fooling around with. And I do that same thing. I have a really hard time doing it with Alfred North Whitehead.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time doing it. Like I don't know. I have I have one. Here it is. Here it is. This is the last one I did about Alfred North Whitehead. Take a look at that.
What in the fuck?
Here, I'll hold this up for the no one's gonna be able to see this. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I make little diagrams. Yeah, it's just I don't know, man. Like I would like to sit down with Alfred North Whitehead, who's long dead, and show him this and say, is this anything like what you meant? And see what he says. He's probably like, what in the sim shit is this, Chris? I don't know, but I'm starting to think that Alfred North Whitehead is an idealist. And I learned about him from Dr. Sherstead Hughes, who's a panpsychist, and I like both ideas, and they're very closely related. But it seems to me like Alfred North Whitehead believes that that everything exists in what he calls the primordial nature of God, which he said now. I didn't know what that meant exactly, but he said now that means the mind of God. It seems to me like he thinks reality are ideas that exist in the mind of God and that get experienced by whatever it is God is. That's why I would fall back to this idea of consciousness or whatever, just some sort of something fundamental. That all seems to make sense with what I've read so far of Whitehead, but I don't think he's known as an idealist. I think he's more of a panpsychist, or at least that's the impression I got because of who introduced him to me. He's like one of the prime thinkers in that realm.
The differentiations between them are, it's like very fine distinction sometimes.
Yeah.
It's about like weird esoteric shit,
It is.
But I mean, not saying that they're not different, but
I really hate isms. I don't know why. I think it's because I have to look every one of them up, and people say them like people understand them. It's like when I first started
plagiarism.
Yeah. When I first started studying all this philosophy of mind stuff, and people would talk about physicalism and materialism and phenomenalism, and it's like, fuck, man, why all the isms? Especially when like we just talked about, panpsychism and idealism are like a hair away from each other, and we have different isms, we have different names for them. And say, at what point is it frivolous that we're making these distinctions and giving them different names?
Got all these isms.
Yeah.
Isming around.
It's like all the different branches of Christianity.
Yeah.
When do we stop handing out new names?
Yeah.
Why don't you you're all Christians. Shut up.
Yeah. It'll never stop. People are always going to fracture off and have disagreements. Yep. And,
it goes back to people wanting to be unique, man.
You were talking about Christmas earlier. The Orthodox Church celebrates Christmas in like January.
That's interesting.
Like January 7th or something.
Is there a reason, particular reason?
They say that's when Christ was born.
Oh, it wasn't like when the calendars changed?
No, they say that's when from what I understand, they say that's when Christ was born. So that's when they celebrate it. And there's something that I like about that, because we were talking about the commercialism of Christmas, and they're just like, we're just not going to do it then.
Yeah.
We'll do it later.
We'll do it later. We'll do it when the sales are on.
Yeah.
So I did watch that two or three episodes of that Graham Hancock show on Netflix.
Yeah, I've got to check that out.
It's called Ancient Apocalypse.
You think they're naming it that in like trying to call to mind ancient aliens?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
But this one focuses a lot on the flood ideas.
Yeah.
You know how Graham will talk about at the end of the last ice age, the sea levels and all that. So but there's something he talks about. I think it's in the first episode, maybe the second episode. He talks about this place in Indonesia. You probably heard
Gunung Padang.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
But there's also another one called Nadal. What is it called? Something Nadal.
Rafael Nadal.
Yeah. But it's in Indonesia. It's relatively close by. So he's talking about these, and he said that the one that you said, Unam Panang, whatever
Gunung
it is, Padang, that one, it's kind of messy. It's like this giant hill, and all of the stones that are on the hill, they're scattered everywhere. Around, it's like scattered. Oh yeah.
Because it's the best word for it. They're scattered.
They're scattered
everywhere.
But these stones, the thing that's interesting about them is that apparently they grow this hexagonal shape naturally. So there's a place in Ireland, I think, where the shore is like that. They're like hexagons, just because of how the stones fracture and it makes these hexagon patterns, or when the stone cools or something, whatever. It's a natural process. So you got a bunch of archaeologists that say these stones form naturally like this. So there's no reason to believe human beings spread them all over this hill. This is how they form, right? But then there's a place called Nan Madol, which is on the other side of the island, and it uses the exact same stones stacked on top of each other like Lincoln logs. So some go horizontal and some go vertically stacked, or not vertically and horizontally, but in different directions, stacked on top of each other, and they make big giant retaining walls and fortifications and stuff, and it's crazy cool. It looks like nothing you've ever seen before. Well, these are the same stones that are at the one I can't pronounce.
Yep.
And they form vertically, but these are all stones that are horizontally laying on the ground, and some of them are still stacked on top of each other. It's not like they fell over. They were stacked on top of each other. So some archaeologists think that this isn't an archaeological site. It's just a mess of stones naturally occurring on this hill. And then what Graham found out with this research group that was doing ground penetrating radar is that underneath this hill covered in stones are 3 subchambers, perfectly rectangular subchambers, and they're all connected to each other by passages. And nobody knew this existed until they did the ground penetrating radar. Now you can no longer say that this site's natural, because underneath the ground are clearly these man-made chambers.
The earth doesn't build rooms.
No, it does not. So now they've reconstructed what would have been a giant terraced hill. So it's almost like a
terrorist.
It's almost like a man-made pyramid, like they do, in different parts of the world. But it's way older than any of the other sites. I think they said that human beings got to that point at some point historically. I don't remember, but not all that long ago. And these ruins predate that by thousands and thousands of years. And it was so cool to see. And now you're like, what are in those chambers? Like, what if we dig down and we open them up and there's evidence of whoever these people, were who lived here that, the archaeologists continue to tell you never existed. That's such a cool mystery, man. And that's the kind of shit Graham Hancock talks about. And I can't get enough of it.
It's great. Graham Hancock is like one of the coolest dudes on the internet. I remember the first time I heard him on Rogan. I was thinking this while I listened to it. They talk about a lot of the same shit.
Yeah.
But then they throw in, the new developments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool, man.
Randall Carlson was on with him too.
Yeah. We last night we had a couple drinks.
One does.
We put on YouTube and we started putting on music videos, and we had 2 friends over, so it becomes a whole thing. The kids were still awake, so they want to listen to stuff they like. We all have slightly different tastes in music, so we all want to watch different things. At one point, we put on "Break Stuff" by Limp Bizkit, and
hope you know I packed a chainsaw.
Yeah. It was just interesting how many people had cameos in that video.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even. Oh yeah, that's right. I do remember that.
I didn't remember that till I watched the
I didn't
video.
either
Yeah,
until you just brought it
yeah.
up. But
At one point, Eminem shows up. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of people.
Limp Bizkit is one of those bands that I liked when I was like 15. You know, I was like, I fucking liked Limp Bizkit a lot. Yeah. I do not really dig Limp Bizkit that much anymore. They didn't hold up. No. You know? But there are some bands from back then that did, man. Like Chevelle. I don't know if you ever.
They're still making music.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I mean, I just mean that like I can even go back and listen to that old stuff. Whereas like, I'm not listening to Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, true. We brought up, there was two bands we brought up last night, Disturbed and System of a Down.
Disturbed is,
it holds up.
No, I don't.
It holds up, man.
I don't like it that much.
No?
No.
The System of a Down though.
I love System of a Down.
Yeah.
Disturbed, not so much. That might just be I have well, no, I don't really dig the music that much. I think it's kind of goofy. But also David Draymond, the lead singer, is just a big old Zionist, which not a fan.
When they brought up Disturbed last night, immediately I thought of Stained.
Yeah.
And that was what they kept talking about, Disturbed, and I was thinking Stained. I'm like, what? I don't really know. I mean, Stained was good. Don't get me wrong. Stained was fine, but it's just like Limp Bizkit. I'm not listening to Stained, man.
I would listen to Stained before I listen to Limp Bizkit.
Well, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Before Limp Bizkit. Yeah.
Stained is, but I mean, I basically feel the same way. I'm never listening to Stained. You know who so I have Spotify and I have a, I've got my liked songs playlist and I've got thousands of songs in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I just put that on and put it on random and just let songs play. So I get a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily want to listen to on a regular basis. It's a song that I like, so I liked it, but I don't want to hear it all the time. And you know who I'm increasingly finding out are people that is a band that I don't really want in my liked songs playlist.
Who?
It's like pretty much every Newfound Glory song that ever comes on, dude. I just skip it. Like, no.
So for me, there's a lot of that stuff that's obviously nostalgia plays a big role.
Yeah.
So like if you put on Nothing Gold Can Stay, that album is got some good songs on it, but it was recorded poorly, inexpensively. It's not a good sound. It's not something if I heard today, I would probably would give a second thought to, but I can listen to it and enjoy it because of the nostalgia. But there are certain albums and Not Without a Fight comes to mind, and Coming Home comes to mind.
Oh man, Coming Home. I used to like that one a lot, but that's like the worst one.
Nah, not in my opinion.
I listen to that and I'm just like, no, dude.
No, I love it. I'll eat it up even right now. Yeah. And Matt sent me a new song of theirs. They're coming out with an acoustic album, which revs my engine, man.
I dig that.
I still love acoustic music. I still love it, man.
I love acoustic music too, but
Yeah. Come on, man. Coming Home?
Nah, dude. It just doesn't do anything for me. That album particularly, I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, it's cool. It's like it's not just pop punk. They're like getting a little bit more to it. There's like kind of serious lyrics.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, Newfound Glory has like serious lyrics. They're not like, even the older stuff.
Yeah.
Did. But now that song Boulders came on and I was like, no, dude, I don't care if I ever hear that song again.
I don't know what album is that on.
Going Home.
Coming Home?
Or Coming Home.
Coming. Because there was a couple of albums that they had not long ago that were pretty hit or miss for me, which is a pun I intend. Not a pun I pretty hit or miss. One of them is the one, it's like a white cover and they've got this one song on it. It's got this like fucking island feel, like you got little maracas or something.
Yeah, it's no idea.
Oh yeah, man. I could if I never heard it again, I'd be fine with it.
I haven't listened to Newfound Glory. I mean, I haven't listened to a new album from them since that one that they did with where they did the other band, the Superheroes of Hardcore or whatever. Yeah. And that was a long time ago.
Dude, listen to Not Without a Fight and see if you like that, if you remember that one.
Not Without a Fight.
Yeah.
Oh, it was themed like a fight, it had like a championship belt on the front of it or something.
For some reason, I'm thinking it was like military guys and it was like a badge or a shield with like military guys fighting each other. I can't remember exactly, but But in my opinion, Not Without a Fight and Coming Home hold up. Coming Home is my favorite New Found Glory album, period.
I'll listen to that.
Yep.
And I'll report back to you next week.
Yeah.
I want you to listen to Tommy the Cat by Primus.
All right. Text it to me.
All right, I will.
Tommy the Cat.
And we're gonna have an exchange. I'm curious to see. I have expectations for what you will think of the song.
Then you might be disappointed.
Maybe.
Or you know me so well and you won't be disappointed and you'll be like, I know you so well.
Yeah. All right. That's happening.
All right. So Not Without a Fight.
Not Without a Fight.
Yeah.
Tommy the Cat.
Tommy the Cat. Anything else, bud?
How much time what are we at? What are we at on time?
What are we at?
I wish that it told you on here.
We're
good.
We're pretty much.
I had other stuff I wanted to talk about.
Well, we got 5 minutes. What do you want? What do you got?
Just other things that I think are funny, like the fact that Dr. Oz lost to fucking Fetterman.
Yeah.
That's awful, man. I mean,
it is awful, but do you think it's legit?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
See,
I really do.
I don't, and I'll tell you why. I got a really bad feeling, bad taste in my mouth after the last election.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't want to interrupt you, but I should just put this caveat in. If it was rigged, I would not be surprised at all. But also, if it is legit, I wouldn't be surprised either, because there's just such an element of Oz being some fucking dude from New Jersey, some celebrity. He's not conservative at all. So he was a terrible candidate. If they would have picked just a slightly better candidate, they would have won. I just fucked up the cameras. But yeah, that Fetterman dude. I mean, I don't want to be mean because the guy had a stroke. It's like Biden. Sometimes I feel bad for Biden. I don't want to be mean to this old man.
Yeah.
But he's a child molester probably, so I just accept it.
I heard a story this morning that a little girl smacked the president in the face. I don't know if this is
Biden.
Yep, I could
was
be
he sniffing her.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was just joking.
He got in her personal space. I just heard it this morning. I haven't verified it, so this is probably nonsense. But I heard there was some public thing, and there was a child there, and he did his Biden thing to the child, and she smacked him in the face.
Nice.
Yeah, which is awesome if it's true. Because that little girl is going to be able to tell the story that she bitch smacked the president of the United States her whole life. That's a cool story.
Tried to sniff me, and I popped him.
Yeah.
Gave him a fresh one. But that Fetterman dude, did you see the debate when they were
oh man, it was so hard.
They're like, Mr. Fetterman, you're opening. He was like, Pennsylvania, good night.
Oh man, yeah.
So
I saw the clips. It was really hard for me to listen to, man.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
I mean,
I couldn't even look at the TV when I was hearing it. I had to look at my feet. It was so hard to listen to.
Apparently, he's like he's been like living off of his parents' money his entire life, so I don't really feel that bad for him.
Oh God. Yeah.
He's a senator.
I know. I'll tell you what I noticed. I've been checking the news in the morning, and the first thing it shows you is the seats in the House and the Senate, the number of Democrats and the Republicans that are confirmed, and it's just showing you who's going to have control. And in the early days after the election, the spread, especially in the House, was super wide. The Republicans were running away with it, and then it was pretty much neck and neck in the Senate, and the Republicans had I think one more seat up on the Dems, and then finally some of these contested races started coming in, and you noticed that the Senate race was narrowing, and the news was kind of telling you that was a likely thing anyway, that the Dems might hold on to the Senate.
Yeah,
that starts narrowing. But then I noticed that the House starts narrowing, and that gap was so large, and now it's within a couple of each other, and that could be legitimate. But it reminds me of exactly what we saw last time, where we had huge changes in those margins that happened all at once. You know, when the morning after the election, when Biden won, all of the numbers looked one-sided, as everyone expected, and then all of a sudden they started narrowing, and then all of a sudden the impossible happened that nobody expected. The Dems were pulling out victories, and Biden was pulling ahead, and all this stuff all at once, and that's what looks like is happening with the House right now.
With the last presidential election, the way I remember it is that I went to bed and Trump was winning.
Yes.
And then I woke up and like the line for Biden was like this curve, and then it just goes boop.
Yeah.
Just like overnight, just this giant surge of votes for Joe Biden.
Yes. That's what seemed that. I don't know, man. It seems unusual to me. It did last time. It is this time. And if the Democrats take a majority in the House, if that happens, I do not have faith in the elections anymore. Yeah. If that happens, I am done. I don't even know if I'm going to vote anymore. I am serious, man.
I don't blame you.
I never believed in my life that my vote would literally not count. And I'm beginning to think that it doesn't. And it's really, really disheartening.
Yep. It's a bummer.
It's scary.
Do you think that there's anything that they can do to like reestablish your faith in it?
Yes, they could
let some Republicans win.
They could do a real independent analysis of the voting system and the machines and the vulnerabilities and the fraud. They could publish the actual information. They could apologize. They can reverse election decisions. They could make it right, and they won't. If they did something like that, if they did a legitimate independent third party analysis, let's say like they, I don't know who would be uncorruptible that might be able to do something like that. But let's say they did something like that was believable to the public. I don't know if it's even possible to happen and not be manipulated. But let's say we were all convinced that it wasn't, that it was a legitimate exploration of the facts, and they turned out that there was fuckery, but it wasn't enough to make a difference. Make that public and move on. But they won't. They haven't. They won't, and that's what makes everyone suspicious.
Shady. Yep.
And I also think that there's absolutely no reason, and this is something Joe Rogan said many times, there's absolutely no reason people should have to leave their house to vote. There's zero reason for that. There's also zero reason for early voting. There's zero reason for mail-in ballots. Zero reason. We should have a completely electronic voting platform. It should require verification of identity by fingerprint, by facial recognition, by something that is beyond reproach. And we should all be able to vote safely and securely at our leisure. Everyone should do it in the same day or maybe the same week. There should not be 50 days advance voting. That's completely not nonsense. It never was that way. And nobody ever had any problems with it. And suddenly it's a problem. It makes me suspicious, man. We need to overhaul it and make it simple and make it safe and convince all of us that it's safe and easy. Yeah,
I'm with you. When I said that Fetterman was, I don't believe that it's rigged. I just believe that it could not be rigged. I think that makes sense to me. That people are like, fuck this guy, Dr. Oz coming in,
Could be. And especially because of the early voting. Like I just said, there was a lot of early voting in Pennsylvania. That means
lots of
thousands and thousands of people voted Democrat before they saw his debate.
Yeah.
That's wrong. Those people can't change their vote, and they didn't have the information. That is the best case against allowing such a big span of early voting.
Did you see all the flags blow over?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I sure did, man.
So funny. The world is just like, it's like an episode of Seinfeld,
As the great Kevin Smith might say, clown shoes.
Fucking clown shoes.
The world is clown shoes.
I still have other stuff I want to talk about, but we're running late at this point.
All right, man. Well, save them for next time. And in the meantime,
adios, muchachos.
Muchachos.
Well, there you have it.